Alright, welcome to the Critical Focus channel and today's review of Domitan'S Stormcoven Rivals deck. As always, make sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button and the bell button, and comment on the video. So I'm going to start with looking at the uninspired side of the fighter cards, starting with the leader, Domitan, Eye of the Storm. He has a move of 3, a defense of 1 shield, and a wound characteristic of 4. He is a level 1 wizard. He has a melee option for 2 range, 2 hammers, 2 damage, called Valedictor's Stave. He also has the option to attack via spell attack action, that is printed on his fighter card, with 3 range, 2 channels, 1 damage. And here's quite a unique thing, that we have a set dice characteristic that is not depending on the caster level of the fighter. That's quite unique. He is automatically inspired when each other friendly fighter is out of action, but he also has the reaction called Harness the Aether. After another friendly fighter's activation, inspire this fighter, then uninspire each other friendly fighter. And if we take a look at his inspired side, he stays on 3 move 1 shield, but he goes to 5 health and turns into a level 2 wizard. And now has cleave and 3 damage on his melee option, and gains cleave and grievous on his spell attack action. And now his spell attack action is back to being how we are used to seeing it. That is, that it's depending on the caster level, which is now 2 then, so it's the same accuracy, but it has cleave and keeps that 1 damage characteristic, but gains grievous. The reaction reads now: use this after this fighter is inspired, stagger each enemy fighter within 2 hexes of this fighter. You can only use this ability once per round. Then we have Leona Stratosi. She's a level 1 wizard and has the flying trait, which is quite unique. 4 move, 1 shield, 4 damage, has a melee option. Valedictor's Bident, 2 range, 2 hammers, 2 damage. The option to spell, 3 range, 2 focuses, 1 damage. It's called Azurite Bolt. She's also automatically inspired when each other friendly fighter is out of action. They all have that set inspire mechanic, but also has the Harness the Aether reaction to inspire after another friendly fighter's activation, and then uninspire every other friendly fighters. When she turns golden, inspired that is, she is also a level 2 wizard. Gains 2 shields in defense, stays on 4 move and 4 health, and her stave is unchanged. Her spell attack action gains 2 damage, so actually better than the leader, because the leader only has grievous but has cleave. But the accuracy is slightly worse, given that it still hits on focuses. And also, like the leader, is not depending on dice characteristic, but now it's depending on the caster level, which is now 2, so it stays the same. Rushing Gales, +1 move to friendly fighters, and friendly fighters have the flying trait when she's inspired, so all other friendly fighters also has the flying trait, and also gains +1 move. That's quite awesome. I guess that includes her, because it doesn't say other friendly fighters, so she actually has 5 move then. Then we have Sarpon the Cyclone, which is a level 1 wizard. Same inspired mechanic there, 3 move, 1 shield, 4 damage. Stormbound Weapons is the melee option, 2 range, 3 hammers, 2 damage, and also has the Azurite Bolt, 3 range, 2 focuses, 1 damage, and has the reaction Harness the Aether, which the other guys has as well. Gains 2 shields inspired, just like Leona. A level 2 wizard inspired, goes up to 3 hammers on the melee option, and still has 2 damage, but also has the Scouring, +1 damage while the target is adjacent. So even if it's range 2, it's even better to hit from adjacent square. The Azurite Bolt stays on 3 range, and now depends on the caster level. Still has 1 damage though, but gains grievous and ensnare. The leader had grievous and cleave, so just a bit of variety there. Reaction on Sarpon's inspired side reads: Aether Force. Reaction uses after this fighter is inspired, choose 1 friendly fighter. That could be Sarpon himself. Push the chosen fighter 1 hex. You can only use this ability once per round. That's quite strong. Pushes is always very, very useful. So let's take a look at the searches here. Let's take a look at Conduit of the Heavens. Search scores immediately after your Warband casts their 4th or subsequent spell in the same round. That seems a tall order, so let's take a look at the arrays of spells we get in the deck, I guess. We have a spell here that's cast on 1 focus, that's pretty easy. We have another 1 focus spell. We have a 1 channel spell, 1 focus spell, 1 channel spell, 1 channel spell, 1 focus spell, and maybe upgrades can help them as well. Also an upgrade spell attack action here, which doesn't really seem all that good. Reroll for casting roll will help. And Scroll of the Spellseeker means that when this fighter attempts to cast a spell, change each symbol in the casting value of that spell too. Could help certain spells, but yeah. I think still it's quite hard. I'm not a huge fan of casting 4 spells in a round, especially if you're down to 1 fighter. That could be really hard. Yeah, I'm dubious. I'm not super sold on. Let's say it's okay. I guess it's doable. Then we have Channel the Storm, scores immediately after the 2nd or subsequent friendly fighter became inspired in the same round. That should be fairly easy, but as soon as you start losing fighters, hard. But I mean, no search should be out to score, so I think it's a good card. Tempest Fury scores immediately after the 3rd or subsequent move action made by friendly fighters in the same phase. I mean, charges are moves, and you can move several times in a round, but you probably want to be fairly static with these guys, just casting spells, right? So you shouldn't be wanting to move all that much. It's very doable, but may kind of be something that's counterproductive to their general game plan, but I think it's an okay card. Scouring Arcs, score this immediately after an enemy fighter is taken out of action by damage dealt by spell. It should be doable. I don't really like taking out of action cards, but this should be doable, I guess. It's still, I think it's okay. Then we have 2 more immediates here. Heaven Sent scores immediately after a friendly fighter cast a spell, and that fighter is holding objective in no one's or enemy territory. That's very easy. I think that's a good, at least good card. Maybe even great. Let's call it great. Heavenly Alignment. Search Jewel scores immediately after a casting roll for a friendly fighter spell attack action. That contain 2 or more magic dice, and each of the magic dice in the casting roll showed a different symbol. Kind of like Branching Fate, right? That seems really easy. Let's call it great card. And the end phases here. Fulminating Bulwark scores in an end phase if 2 or more friendly fighters are adjacent to each other, and each of those fighters within 2 hexes of enemy territory. It's all just risky when you have so few fighters, and it's just 1 glory. I would probably pass on it. Knight's Triumphant scores in an end phase if each surviving friendly fighter made the Harness the Aether reaction in the preceding action phase. And there are 2 more surviving friendly fighters in enemy and or no one's territory. It's 2 glory, so you could have 1 in no man's territory and 1 in enemy territory. Just check that reaction. Aether, Harness the Aether. You can only do the Harness the Aether if you're uninspired, right? So this is just an unscorable card once you're down to 1 guy, which you eventually will be. So I'm dubious. I think it's okay. It's not impossible, but I don't think it's much more than that. Knights Victorious. Score this in an end phase if your Warband holds 1 or more objectives in enemy territory. Easy enough. And 1 or more enemy fights were taken out of action by damage dealt by spell in the preceding action phase. It should be doable, but it could be kind of a brick as well. I think it's okay. Knights Arcanum scores in an end phase if 1 or more inspired friendly fighters are each holding an objective in enemy territory. That should be really easy. That's a good card. Thunderstruck scores in an end phase if 3 or more enemy fighters each have 1 or more wound counters and or are out of action. Just 1 glory for 3 enemy fighters out of action, which is basically what it says, right? Wound counters isn't that much easier unless you have a lot of ping damage. I think it's I don't really like it. I think it's pass actually. It's just 1 glory as well. Eye of the Hurricane scores an end phase if the same friendly fighter made 4 more different actions in the preceding action phase, and that fighter is no one's or enemy territory. Different actions. So it could be reactions. Once you're down to 1 guy, it's really easy, but you don't really want to be down to 1 guy, and it could really kind of shoehorn you into doing very specific things. I will just have to game test it actually. I'm not really sure. I'm dubious much, but let's see. I think there is a fair few reactions here, but they all have to be different, right? So, Aura of Power, going over to Ploys and spells now. Choose an enemy fighter that's adjacent to one or more friendly fighters, stagger the chosen fighter. Yeah, we have seen a lot of those cards. It's not really that fun. It's like pass/okay. I'm not really a fan of stagger. Azerite Halo, Gambit spell, 1 focus. If cast, -1 dice from enemy attack actions to a minimum 1 made by enemy fighters adjacent to this fighter. That's a bit weak, right? It's good for casting spells, but it's not really that great unless you're meeting a very melee focused team. And you'll only get the effect against one of your friendly fighters. Blaze of the Heavens, it's 1 focus as well. If cast, choose one enemy fighter within X hexes of the caster, where X is 3 plus the number of other friendly wizards within 2 hexes of the caster. Wow, that's very complicated. Deal 1 damage to the chosen fighter. It's fairly easy cast, and it's 1 ping damage. It's okay. Celestial Blades, Gambit spell, 1 channel. If cast, choose your friendly fighter. You can reroll 1 dice in that fighter's attack roll. This effect persists until the end of the round. 1 reroll. Yeah, I mean, a reroll for the round is pretty good. Especially if you're down to 1 fighter that you've beefed up really well. It could be very useful, and it's very easy to cast. I think it's a good card. Howling Gales, Gambit spell, 1 focus. If cast, choose 2 enemy fighters in the same territory. Push each chosen fighter up to 1 hex closer to the other chosen fighter. If the chosen fighters are now adjacent, stagger the chosen fighters. Yeah, that could be really useful. It's fairly easy to cast. I think it's a good card. Pushes are great, even if it's kind of a dictated push. Lightning Tether, Gambit spell, 1 channel reaction. Play this after this fight successful spell attack action. After the dryback step, if cast, deal 1 damage to each enemy fighter adjacent to the target. Yeah, it's a very specific. Not really a fan. Pass/okay. It's fairly easy cast, and I mean you could set it up, but I would rather like do the damage to the fighter you're really or already kind of damaging. Pass the mantle. Choose a friendly fighter. The chosen fighters are inspired, then uninspire each other friendly fighter. I could see that's useful. It's good to kind of be able to do it before your activation. So I think it's a good card. Pillar of Lightning, Gambit spell, 1 channel. If cast, pick a feature token within 4 hex of this fighter. Enemy fighters treat the hex that feature token is in as lethal hex in addition to other types. This effect persists until the end of the round, or this Gambit deals damage to an enemy fighter. That's pretty weak, I think. I'm gonna pass on that one. Positive Charge. +1 dice to the first range 1 or range 2 attack action made by friendly fighters in the next activation step. In addition, +1 move to the first charge super action made by an inspired friendly fighter in the next activation step. +1 dice, +1 move, but it's not for spells, which you kind of will want to be doing. So I'm not sure I would include it. It's a great card for every other Warband, but I think it's a pass for this Warband. Thundershock, Gambit spell, 1 focus. If cast, choose an enemy fighter adjacent to the caster. Deal 1 damage to the chosen fighter and -1 damage from the chosen fighter's attack actions to a minimum 1. This effect persists until the chosen fighter's takedown action or the end of the round. Yeah, that's pretty good, right? You can charge up, kind of bring them one down to vulnerable and then finish them off with this one. Or kind of soften them up before your next attack as well. So I think that's a good card. Blades of Azir, this fights range 2 attack actions or range 3 and have stagger. That's kind of unique. I could see that being very useful for someone like, I mean, Domitan himself, I guess. He's 2 damage with cleave for 3 damage. So that would be 3 range, 2 damage with 3 damage. 2 damage with 3 damage, cleave and stagger. It's very specific though, and you kind of want to be focusing on spells. I mean, might be kind of a lure, I guess. I probably wouldn't include it. But at the same time, when you're down to... I would probably pass. Charge weapons, this fighter range 1 and 2. Actions other than attack actions other than spell attack actions have a grievous 1. If this fighter cast 1 or more spells in this round, I don't really like it. Pass. Electrified Grasp, 1 range swirlies, but depending on spellcaster level, 1 damage, cleave and snare and stagger. A pass. Electrokinesis, attack action 3 range, 3 swords, 1 damage with knockback 2. Reaction during this attack action after the drawback step, stagger each enemy fighter within 1 hex of the target. Meh. Pass. Herald of the Storm, +1 move. Reaction after an activation step in which this fighter made a successful spell attack action. Remove 1 of this fighter's charge tokens, then give this fighter 1 move token. Yeah, so kind of you have to charge and cast a spell to be able to utilize this. And then you are rewarded with having just a move instead of a charge. And you get +1 move. Yeah. It's okay, I guess. It's Lightning Lash reaction after a spell cast by this fighter that dealt damage to an enemy fighter. Push that enemy fighter 1 hex. That's pretty good, I guess. An extra push after a spell, which they should be doing. That's a good card. It's not amazing, but Master of Ancient Lore reaction. Also, use this after an opponent plays a power card. Draw 1 power card, or draw 2 power cards if the power card was a Gambit spell. This can only be used once per round. Extra draw tech is also always very useful, and you will always find a window of opportunity for this card. That's a good card, if not a great card. The Crown of Storms. You can reroll 1 dice in this fighter's casting roll. It's a good card included. The Liber Fulminus, +1 range to this fighter's range 2 plus spell attack actions. That's very good. So we can have range 4 spell attacks. That's awesome. Because it's range 2 plus spell attack actions. So 3 plus will be included in that. So that's a good card. Scrolls of the Spell Seeker. When this fighter attempts to cast a spell, change each symbol in the casting value of the spell. Okay, change each symbol in the casting value of that spell to channels. So you don't actually change the dice, you change the stuff you want to be hitting on, and that's good because I mean channels are better than swirly. So I think that's a good card as well. So that's it. I think I'm fairly impressed with the deck. I mean the fighter cards look pretty beefy and impressive. I don't think you should be focusing on melee options too much. Go the spell route. That's the most fun thing to do, and the thing you kind of will want to be doing with this deck. Otherwise, you can just take like Iron Sword Condemners or whatever. No need to take the spell team if you're gonna go melee focused. But I'm not the one to tell you how to play the game. But that's my 2 cents. So if you have enjoyed my just initial thoughts and ramblings here, make sure to like the video, hit the bell button, subscribe, and leave a comment on your thoughts and experiences, because they have been out for a while now, on Domitan'S Stormcoven. Until further ado, take care. Bye.